Greetings, dear ones. My name is Drax16 and thank you for clicking on this video. Today is going to be a bit different in what I'm making today. Um, I'm a Christian. I just want to, go over why I left Islam because I practiced Islam for 6 years, but for the past 6 years I've been a Christian, and so I used to be a Muslim, so I wanted to address why I left Islam, why I'm no longer convinced that the Quran is the verbatim words of God, and why I'm no longer believing that Muhammad was a prophet of God. So I don't have any scriptures prepared. Usually I have like some notes to read off of or something, but I wanted this to be really raw and from my heart. So that's why I don't have any scriptures prepared or any hadiths. I'm just going based on my memory and based on what I feel in my heart. So, with that said, let's begin. The Quran says that there is no compulsion in religion, and I think Yusuf Ali renders it as, let there be no compulsion in religion. So, Abdullah Yusuf Ali rendered it as a command, but there are plenty of other translations of the Quran in English that say that there is no compulsion in religion. So you have, let there be no compulsion in religion, and there is no compulsion in religion. They both are saying pretty much the exact same thing. It's just that Yusuf Ali, who was an Indian scholar of Islam, his translation of the Quran has been invaluable to me over the years. But anyways, so the Quran says that there is no compulsion in religion, meaning you don't have to follow Islam and you can leave Islam whenever you want it. No one is forcing it on you. However, Muhammad contradicted that teaching because he said in an authentic hadith, which is an oral tradition in the Sunni faith. That's what a hadith is, by the way. A hadith is it's like an oral tradition. So the Shia have their hadiths and the Sunnis have their hadiths, and they're not in agreement on everything. But I was a Sufi. I used to be a Sufi Muslim. However, I believed in the Sunnah wholeheartedly. But anyways, that's not my point to say why I became a Sufi. But I was thoroughly orthodox. I sat under a lot of good Sunni teachings, and I was an advocate for the Sunnah. Anyways, sorry, going off topic. But Muhammad said in an authentic hadith that whoever leaves Islam must be killed. So you have the Quran saying on one hand that there's no compulsion in religion, but Muhammad himself said that whoever leaves Islam or whoever changes their religion, kill him. So that command by Muhammad leads a lot of people into practicing Islam out of fear. There are many people who wish that they could leave Islam, but the threat of their execution prevents them from leaving Islam. And really, only a very, very sinister religion would keep people following it out of fear. I mean, it would be enough if you were just in danger of hellfire, but it doesn't stop there, unfortunately. Muhammad said that you must be killed. So there are people who want to leave Islam, but the threat of execution prevents them. So therefore, Muhammad contradicted the Quran because you can't leave Islam whenever you feel like it, as the Quran clearly says that you can. But according to Muhammad, you can't, because you'll be executed if you leave Islam. And that's why many countries today that rule under Sharia mandate that anyone who leaves Islam must be killed. So, and also there's a couple other things about Muhammad that I find reprehensible, to be perfectly honest. For example, the Quran says that a man can have a maximum of 4 wives. Now, granted, I will grant that it's not necessarily encouraging polygamy, because it says the Quran says if you can't be just with them, then just marry one. So, but they have the option of marrying up to four Muslim men. Now, Muslim women, on the other hand, can't marry more than one husband, which is kind of weird. Only the men can be polygamous. Only the men can have more than one wife if they so desire. But I just wanted to let me just say I'm not saying that that Islam advocates for, you know, because you have to treat your wives with justice. You have to treat them with fairness. So you have to give them an equal amount of money, an equal amount of attention, an equal amount of sex, an equal amount of sadaqah or charity. Even smiling is a charity according to Muhammad. But anyways, but however, Muhammad seemed like he believed that he could have as many women as he wanted. He had more than four wives. So the Quran says that a man can only have up to four, but Muhammad had more than four. And he used his religion to try and justify his, enjoying multiple women, more than four at a time. Also, I would say that, one of the reasons I left Islam was because of loneliness. I was, I was approached by many Muslim men who were nice to me, but when it came to Eid al-Adha or Eid al-Fitr or Ramadan, I had no one to spend that time with because none of my family members are in any way religious. So I really didn't feel comfortable in asking a man to have dinner with me or asking a family to take me in for dinner or whatever. But it seemed like, Muslims all over the world, when they were celebrating Ramadan or celebrating Eid, it felt so lonely to me because I was, obviously as a white guy, I stood out a lot in the Islamic community, but it was just loneliness, like they didn't really care about me being alone on Eid or that they didn't care about me being alone during Ramadan. It was really lonely, and so that's why the Islamic holidays and celebrations felt really hollow for me because no one ever invited me over for dinner or lunch, or not lunch, but to, to break your fast during Ramadan and whatever. Another thing that really bothered me was how Islam, or at least in my experience, how Islam treated women, because it seems that, you know, hell threats are not really appropriate to get someone to obey something. So when a woman would ask why she has to wear a hijab, which is a headscarf that most Muslim women wear, they were just told, well, you have to wear a hijab or you're going to hell. But that's so, it's just, it's kind of disgusting to just threaten them with hellfire. Obey this command or you're going to hell. But really, the main reason why Islam mandated that was for the sake of modesty. It's not to protect women from being raped. It's not because they look better when they're modest. It was for the sake of Allah that they had to obey, because Allah is worthy of being obeyed. So, this idea that you just have to wear the hijab or you're going to hell, that really never sat well with me. Because, and on top of that, nothing is ever good enough for Muslim men when it comes to modesty. It doesn't matter how much a woman covers herself. If even a single man can't stop lusting after her, then all the blame is put on the woman. So Muslim men need to learn how to control themselves rather. Because, and I mean, let's just be honest, pornography is a huge issue in the Islamic community. It really is. And the vast majority of porn watching is done by Muslim men. So Islam is very much in some ways, it's a man-centered religion because nothing is ever good enough for them. It doesn't matter how much a woman covers herself. They're just bullied into being more modest. They'll just say, "Well, you're just not being modest enough. You're going to get raped because you're not modest enough. You're going to hell because you're not modest enough." And so I really found that reprehensible on the part of Muslim men to just threaten girls with hellfire and to force them to be modest so that they can avoid hell. But in Christianity, it's so much different because we cover ourselves, we behave modestly because God is worthy of being obeyed. And we Christian women are modest because God is worthy of being obeyed. It's not to protect them from being raped. Of course, I don't want anyone to be raped, but do you really think a rapist is going to stop raping someone just because she's wearing a headscarf? Do you really think that's going to stop a rapist from doing what he's going to do? Of course not. So it would be ridiculous to say that, well, Muslim women are going to get raped if they don't wear the hijab. It's just, again, it's playing on fear. It's so man focused. Like, because in the Islamic community that I experienced, it's almost never the man's fault when he lusts after a woman. They just blame women for it. So I lusted after her because she's not being modest enough, or she wasn't covering her neck, or she wears flip flops and her toes are showing. It's really bad. But and on top of that, I really had a beef with Islam and in the Quran memorization because it seems as though many people memorize the Quran without even knowing what it says. So literally, there are people who have memorized the entire Quran, but they don't know why they have to fast. There, you know, there are Muslims that have memorized the Quran, but they don't know why they don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God. So the entire thing of, parents making their child memorize the Quran, it is all an empty show. It means absolutely nothing for your child to memorize the Quran when, in fact, some of these children don't even understand Arabic. So not only do they not know the meaning of the words, but they don't know the words themselves. So, yeah, it really rubs me the wrong way. And for the record, I did do the daily prayers. I did pay my zakat. I did fast during Ramadan. And I did take the Shahada, which is necessary for every person to become a Muslim. I did not do the Hajj though. So if you're going to find fault with me, you can at least be honest about it and say, well, maybe you were never a Muslim to begin with because you didn't go to Hajj. But the thing is with Hajj, Muhammad said that you only have to do that if you're able to. And I was not able to because I didn't have enough money to go. But anyways, and also back to the sex thing. Um, the Quran permits Muslim men to have sex with some of their war captives, not necessarily slaves, but the Quran talks about it as those who their right hand those who their right hands possess. So it's people who I mean, you fight against someone in a war, but you can take those warriors' wives and have sex with them without having to be married to them. And that's just absolutely disgusting. That really is absolutely repulsive. That you can have sex with someone who's a captive under your right hand and just have sex with her without having to be married to her. So Yeah, hopefully this has been enlightening. And Islam is a very beautiful religion in some ways, but it's not from God. And I'm glad that I came to realize that before it was too late. And so, you know, Muslims all over the world would have been calling for my head to be cut off because of this video, but I don't care. I'm not afraid of them. I'm not afraid. Even if someone does come and kill me, I'll just go straight to heaven. I'll be a martyr. So really, and I don't believe that that's indicative of all Muslim people because I sat under a lot of good preaching at Jumu'ah, which is Friday in Islam. I sat under some really good khutbahs, and yeah, many of the hatibs that came in to preach were not at all violent. They weren't violent at all, not even slightly. So, though it is true that Islam is a violent religion in that it calls for the killing of apostates, not every Muslim is like that. So, it would be unfair for me to say that the Islamic community is a bunch of immoral monsters. I don't really have much of a problem with, well, unless we're talking about not inviting me over for Eid. But for the most part, I don't really have a beef with Muslims. It's their prophet that I have a beef with. He was allowed to marry as many women as he wanted. It didn't matter if there was more than four. He could marry as many as he wanted, and he could have sex with any of those war captives or those whom the right hand possesses without having to be married to them. So, and yeah, that's really all I have to say right now. But thank you for listening. Even if you disagree with some of the stuff I've said here, I do appreciate you watching this video, and I hope that all of you have a beautiful day. God bless you.